pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Roll it.
Welcome to The Point.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? And welcome to yet another episode of The Point, the one and only. I'm your boy Ricky B. Across the screen from me, of course, is the one half of the Combat Universal Tag Team Champions. And, of course, his name is the man, the myth, the legend, H-Stacks himself. Good to see you, brother.
Yeah. Been a hell of a week, huh?
Yeah. How's everything going?
Surviving, man. Surviving.
I hear you. Everybody on lockdown up there?
Not yet, but we're getting close.
We are in shelter in place here in North Carolina as of 5 p.m. this evening. Of course, it's Monday. We record this early.
We're still doing essential workers, blah, 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 blah. But it's been crazy, man. First case was finally announced down home where I'm originally from, so the spread is still happening here. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know how many cases we're up to. Last I looked, we were at like 109 here in Franklin County.
Wow.
So,
The county I live in, there's 3 confirmed cases, and all 3 of those are people that traveled outside of North Carolina. That's just in this county, of course. The state, we got a lot more than that, but they're spread out pretty thin. I'm actually pretty, I won't say impressed because ain't nothing impressive about this shit, but I'm shocked that it hasn't spread faster than it has. So I know we want to go ahead and get through this. We got a lot going on today in our personal lives. We didn't want to skip a week. We wanted to give y'all an episode. Like I said, H-Stacks is dealing with some issues. I got some stuff going on, so we're going to go ahead and try to knock this out for you. The big news is that there's 2 really big things that are going on in the sports world right now. One of which is the situation with the lockdowns and the COVID-19 and WrestleMania 36 that was originally supposed to be in Tampa Bay, now at the Performance Center in Florida. And the other one, of course, is free agency wrapping up, or at least winding down. And we're going to kind of go over, some of the big signings by the teams, money they're making, and what their remaining needs are. And, this information is a few days old given the situation. But one of the biggest things, H-Stacks, that I wanted to touch on and give the guy some love, man, let him know we're praying and thinking about him. Travis Frederick, the Dallas Cowboys. He retired suddenly out of nowhere, and he's only been in a few years and still a veteran. I think it's 6 or 7 years in. But he announced that he's had a battle with Guillain-Barré syndrome, or Barré syndrome. It's an autoimmune disease that affects the nervous system. It knocked him off the field in 2018. Frederick lost strength and some motor skills, but was cleared to return last year, and he started 16 games. But he said in a statement, "I made my return to the field, played well overall, and was selected to the Pro Bowl, but it was a difficult year for me. Each day I faced a struggle. I could no longer perform at my highest level. Playing well is not what I expect of myself, and it is, I do apologize, and it is not what my teammates deserve. Because of this, I know my days as a football player are done. I'm proud of what I've accomplished in my career, and I walk away with my head held high." Apologize for the 3rd grade reading level there. But, we give a shout out to him, man, and anybody dealing with any kind of autoimmune disease is a big deal. And we're going to touch on that when we get to the WrestleMania thing here in a minute to change the landscape of some of their main events. But you got to give this guy props, man. You got to give him props. He's going out on his own terms, and he's smart enough to swallow his pride and his ego and say, look, my health is more important and my family's more important. So Kudos. Now, I'm sure you probably heard the Panthers made a big move this past week. I'm not sure I understand it. I kind of sort of understand it. But Cam Newton is no longer a Carolina Panther. Now, for everybody in the rest of the country and the world, that may not be a big deal. But here in the Carolinas, Cam Newton was the second coming of God himself. As when it came, come to football. He took the Carolina Panthers franchise from here to here.
Right.
I know he's injury prone. I know he's had some surgeries. We won't get into how he dresses, for Christ's sake. But he's no longer a Panther now. They gave him permission to seek a trade, so we kind of saw the writing on the wall, especially when they signed Teddy Bridgewater for that stupid contract. I still can't get over $63 million, man. 3 years. That's just unbelievable. Teddy Bridgewater. I don't know what the hell that was about. But so now that they give him permission to seek a trade, nobody bites. And talk about a fall from grace, man. You go from being 2015 league MVP and in the Super Bowl 15-1 season to now here we are 2020 coming up on the 2020-2021 season, and nobody wants Cam Newton. Are we in a damn alternate dimension here, or what the hell's going on?
It's kind of interesting to me. We're coming up on a draft class that's not particularly quarterback heavy. Your two big names right off the top of my head is Tua and Jalen Hurts. And then obviously Burrow. But it's not a super quarterback heavy draft class. If anything, I think it kind of gives credence to the whole what's his name that we don't mention here situation. Nobody wants to sign Mr. Drama Man, but nobody wants to sign Newton either. It tells me that maybe we're getting away from that style of quarterback, possibly.
Who are you referring to?
That former 49ers quarterback.
Oh, yeah. To be fair, Cam Newton's 10 times the athlete, but
Absolutely.
Man.
But they have a similar play style.
They do. I think the league is starting to move back towards a pocket passer.
Yeah.
And that may be, like you just said, that may be part of it. But the other part is I know Cam was due a little over $19 million, and the fact his health has been stayed in question, combined with a market that's drying up, he wasn't equitable enough for anyone to bite. And I don't blame him on the money aspect, and I do understand where the Panthers are coming from with that a little over $19 million that he was due, considering what he's been doing as of late, what he's been putting out, the injuries he's been going through. But who knows? Well, I mean, they signed P.J. Walker, which I'm going to be very interested to watch that training camp if they have one. Him and Bridgewater, they're very competitive people. Me personally, I think P.J. is going to walk out with the starting job, man, and I'm excited as hell to see it. If I'm Dave Tepper and I own the Carolina Panthers, I know that excitement sells. He's coming into the league again with a whole hell of a lot of momentum, a whole hell of a lot of excitement, and his style is a lot similar to Cam Newton. So it would be an easier transition. Maybe it would lessen the blow a little bit, but I'm not sure what his contract details are, but I know what Teddy Bridgewater's contract details are. And I think if I had to make one comment on that situation that I haven't already made, is I do believe the wrong person has the wrong contract in that situation. Now, PJ hasn't proven himself in the NFL, so maybe that's common sense. Maybe that's got a little bit to do with it. So where do you think Cam's going to end up?
In all honesty, it wouldn't surprise me to see him end up in New England.
Really? Well, I know New England. I wouldn't say. I'm not going to say no. Um, but if I had to guess, I think the Chargers have a huge need. I know it's a totally different system, but they have a huge need at quarterback. Denver has a needed quarterback. Jacksonville could definitely use it, and he would be able to stay in this area. So I believe one of those three teams personally. Now, of course, we may wake up tomorrow and he could sign with the Texans or some shit. You never know. But that's kind of where I'm leaning. So it'll be interesting to see. It'll be real interesting to see.
It would be smart at this point in time for a team like Miami or Cincinnati to sign him, especially with them getting ready to draft a guy like Joe Burrow or a guy like Tua or a guy like Jalen Hurts, to have that caliber of a quarterback at least there that he can sit behind and watch and kind of do the Brady effect. But I don't think any of those teams are that damn smart.
It worked for Garoppolo. Boy, did it ever. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I went to a Panthers-Patriots game. I sat second row behind the Patriots bench, and I couldn't tell Garoppolo and Brady apart except for their number.
Right.
I swear to you, I could not tell them apart until they got close to watching them throw, the size, the shape, everything. But we'll see where he ends up. It's going to be interesting. This whole new season that we talked about is going to be interesting. We're going to talk about that here in a second with all the shakeups. But one thing I want to touch on real quick before we get into this is, and we'll take a break and then we'll come back and really get into the meat of the show. But what is WrestleMania? WrestleMania 36. And we talked about Travis Frederick and the fact that he had to retire early. And we all know Roman Reigns. I know everybody's tired of that character. But the man has leukemia. And I gotta say, as a human being, non-kayfabe, real life, he's a bad son of a bitch. To have leukemia and do what he does, man, God bless him. He truly has a passion and a love for pro wrestling. And, of course, the paycheck, don't get me wrong. But he has decided to pull himself out of WrestleMania. And as we all know, he was set to face Goldberg and no doubt probably go over as the Universal Champion. But he is pulled out. There's been several others. Of course, Braun Strowman replacing Roman Reigns, which matches have already been filmed. So we just have to wait till Saturday and Sunday to see the results. But 2 days now, not one. But Rey Mysterio, Dana Brooke, Asuka, several names that have not either been quarantined or sick. Now, I don't know if they're sick with the coronavirus, but for whatever reason, they're not going to be there either. So, or weren't there when they reported. Is it worth it at this point, Haystacks?
At this point, I think that they would be better off trashing the tapings because results are already out there. Whether Vince wants to, whether he likes it or not, results I've already seen and heard most of the show results. At this point, you're going to be better off trashing the show and maybe moving it back a month and hoping that maybe they lift some of these bans.
Right.
It's no good for anybody at this point. Your talent, you're losing your talent left and right because of this. You're putting your talent at risk. Nobody can enjoy it. You have no fans in the building. It's your biggest show of the year. Other than ego, what are you really benefiting out of this entire situation?
Well, when you're talking WrestleMania and you're talking World Wrestling Entertainment, the flagship wrestling organization as far as pro wrestling in the entire world, or the biggest, I should say, and the most involved, they have a long lineage. Again, at WrestleMania 36, so there's been 35 prior, and I've seen damn near every one of them from the time I knew what pro wrestling was, which was a very early age. I remember, maybe it's the pride that, because they're not going to make shit off of this WrestleMania. They're not going to make anything off of it. They're losing their ass, which it sucks for the wrestlers as well, because the downsides on some of these contracts and the guarantees from draws and going over and different things. I would imagine they're going to lose a lot of that. Although I know WWE will probably take care of them in some aspects, but maybe it's just okay. WrestleMania has always gone on. The show always goes on. So we're going to put the damn show on regardless and do the best we can. Now, when you think WrestleMania, you think pyro. You think, 200-foot long ramps. You think, sold out capacity crowds and where the ring looks like a tic tac in the middle of an anthill. It's going to be bad. And I'm going to watch it. I'm going to watch it because out of morbid curiosity, as will, I'm sure, the rest of the country and half the world. But you still have that excitement, you still have that, I can't wait to see it. But then when you click on it and you start watching it, as I do on the network, I think a stark reality is going to slap us in the face. Like, we want it to be different than Raw and SmackDown has been. And they have made modifications, just like AEW, with not showing the empty seats and replacing it with lights and different things. Man, it's going to be hard to watch.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if this was, 10, 15 years ago, to where you're still getting paid $49.99 for your pay-per-views, okay, I can understand it. You're still getting something in from the back end, but how many people are really going to go that haven't already, that aren't wrestling fans? How many people are really going to go and buy the WWE Network that haven't got it already? And still, $9.99, you're making $10 a head.
Right.
Compared to $50 a head. It's a bad situation all the way around for everybody involved.
Well, there's really two or three things that's going to be their saving grace in this situation. Now, one being that your first 30 days on the network is free. So they'll get WrestleMania for free. It's also a bad thing because people come on and they see that shit and they're like, that's WrestleMania?
Right.
Everybody understands what's going on right now in the world. I mean, but still. And the other thing is you got the loyalists that watch regardless, that hang on every word Vince McMahon says. So that could be a positive as well. And the other positive could also be that, like I said, these guys don't give a shit. The show's going on. No matter how big, no matter how small, WWE's always going to be there then, now, forever. So we'll see. We'll see. But there's a lot of negative.
The good thing that he's got going on is they're the only sports entertainment, quote unquote, that's going on right now. So people that are irritated that they don't have football, basketball, baseball to watch, it might give them a huge boost in ratings for WrestleMania that they might get some kickback from.
Right. That's the one point that I go ahead.
People want their sports, but I don't know if it's worth it, man, at this point.
Yeah, and that's the one point that I failed to touch on, is the fact that, there isn't a lot of shit going on right now. So I know me personally, normally we'd be ramping up for the NBA Finals. March Madness would be wrapping up. NCAA basketball championship. All this shit coming up. But the NBA playoffs, I'm not sure they would have been that great this year anyway. I'm just being brutally honest. It probably came down to LeBron James and Antetokounmpo, but it is what it is. We'll see. We'll see. Because I'm going to watch it. I'm not going to sit here in front and try to lie. I'm going to watch it. I haven't been watching Raw and SmackDown. I couldn't care less here as of late. But one last thing I'll touch on, take a quick break and then come back and jump into this free agency wrap up is, Combat Universal Promos had their big show last night. It's Monday, so it was last night for us at this point in time recording. And for the first show out the gate, they had the first show, the first big show, Lost Horizon, all that stuff. It was about an hour long. We saw tag team turmoil. Saw a couple of other matches. We saw some struggles. Winners haven't been announced yet, but the one question and the only question I want to talk about, go over to YouTube, by the way, Combat Universal Promo, show them some love. Well, stay on YouTube and go over to their channel, show them some love. The one thing I want to ask you about, Haystacks, tag team turmoil. Since you are one half of the tag team champions, the union represent with the Rising Sun, who you see being your opponents, number one contenders coming after your title?
And, it's like I said yesterday when we were watching the match and all that stuff. I saw flashes of brilliance from a few people that kind of surprised me, but saw a lot of disappointment as well. If I was to give my early prediction, I'm probably going to say that we're going to be facing Altered Prophecy, Jacob Carney, and Cody Bentley in that match.
See that?
I think that's going to be a pretty good match. I definitely think that they're going to elevate the level. And that match coming up next month is going to be pretty damn good. Jacob's got the talent. He's definitely got the talent. He's a good dude to work with. Same with Cody. Cody Bentley, his editing skills are up there with some of the best.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what those guys bring to this match if they're announced the winners. But that's who I've got as my early winner of the tag team turmoil to face us.
That should certainly be an interesting match, no doubt. I know I saw Rising Sun drop a promo last night. It was pretty hardcore. But I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I know the next show's a month away. Little Birdie's told me there's a huge name apparently coming back, possibly. So keep your eyes peeled for that. The last thing I'll touch on before the break, Scotty, is have you seen this Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods thing?
No.
Apparently, Phil Mickelson is trying to put together some kind of a golf rematch between him and Tiger Woods somewhere during the coronavirus. I'm not sure what the point of that is. Again, everything's shut down for a reason. Keep your ass at home. So that's my opinion on that. But I'm not a golf fan either way. Anyway, so
not unless they're planning on, if they've got a damn putting green inside their damn house or something.
Right. And even then, I mean, stay the hell at home, man. I know it sucks. It sucks for everybody, but it is what it is.
Yeah. If they go and do that, then freaking media is going to show up. People's going to show up. It's going to turn into some big bullshit thing all over again. Don't do it.
That's right. That's right. All right.
Sit your ass for 2 freaking weeks. Let this thing curve out.
That's right.
That's all we got to do. The more you guys go and do this dumb shit, the longer this is going to go on.
That's right. I got 2 words for you. New York. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come right back and we'll jump right back into this. See you on the flip.
Join us next week for another action-packed episode of The Point.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back from the break. We appreciate you staying tuned. We're going to jump right back into this. The free agency, Haystacks, free agency in the NFL, that is, it's starting to wind down a little bit, if not done completely. I'm not sure how much time's left. But some of these teams have made some big moves, not some of them, hell, all of them. There's been a lot of moves all over the league. And the first one I'm going to start out with is the Arizona Cardinals. As you know, Larry Fitzgerald, the wide receiver, he re-signed with them. 1-year contract, $11 million with incentives per Ian Rappaport. DeAndre Hopkins, we heard that name, wide receiver. They acquired him in a trade with the Texans. That's huge. You got DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald, man. The same offense. That's going to be fun. Devin Kennard, linebacker, he agreed, $12.25 million, 3-year, $20 million, $12.25 guaranteed. Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle, he signed with a 3-year deal. And So, there's some of the big names for the Falcons. I mean, not Falcons, but excuse me, Cardinals. But saying Falcons because the Falcons have made some moves their damn self. But before I move on, some of the remaining needs for the Cardinals, man, they need an offensive line, they need an edge rusher, and defensive line as well. Sound like the Panthers. Hell, the Panthers need every damn thing. But Atlanta Falcons, some of their remaining needs, they need some corners, need some linebackers, and they definitely need a safety. But I'm sure they signed Todd Gurley, which is one of the head scratchers. He agreed to a 1-year, $6 million deal, which is not necessarily what he's worth. We touched on that last week. So skipping over, they also signed Hayden Hurst, tight end, that they acquired in a trade with the Ravens, along with the 2020 fourth-round pick in the draft. So that should be interesting. The Ravens, at least on paper, the Ravens look like they're going to be good this year, or have the potential, because really the only needs they have, a linebacker, outside line, and of course an edge rusher. I mean, hell, everybody's always looking for an edge rusher. But they signed Calais Campbell, defensive end. They acquired him in a trade with, of course, Jacksonville Jaguars in exchange for a 5th-round pick. And, of course, he is due. They last heard they were finalizing a 2-year, $27 million deal that includes $20 million guaranteed. Not a bad payday for a defensive end.
No.
And they also signed the center, Matt Skura. They placed the original round tender on the restricted free agent for Garofalo. If another team signs him to a contract and Baltimore doesn't match it, the Ravens will not receive any compensation. So they're taking a gamble with the center, but still, I've heard the name. I've seen him play. I think he's all right. So if I was the Ravens, I'd hold on to him. I don't know what their other options are at center. So now, in my opinion, and let me ask you, have you watched the Buffalo Bills and seen what they've been doing in the offseason?
Some, not a whole lot. I don't pay too much attention to any of the East Coast teams other than Baltimore because they're in the Browns division.
Right. But the Bills, they have traditionally, ever since they took our offensive coordinator, they've typically, because of where he come from, and the Panthers roster, they traditionally take a lot of the Panthers players that come up for grabs. And this year is no different. They picked up Mario Addison, edge rusher, of course. He agreed to terms on a 3-year, $30.5 million contract that includes only $15.25 guaranteed. They picked up Vernon Butler from the Panthers, defensive tackle. He signed with the Bills 2-year deal worth $18 million, $9.3 million guaranteed. They picked up, this is not a Panther, Stephon Diggs. Remember this guy? Yeah, you remember this guy with the miracle catch a couple years ago against the Saints, I believe it was. Wide receiver, he was acquired in a trade with the Vikings along with a 2020 7th-round pick in exchange for a 1st-round pick, 5th-round pick, 6th-round pick, and 2021 4th-round pick as well. So I'm not sure what the situation was there, but I don't know why in the hell they would have got rid of him. But they're getting a hell of a lot of stuff in return.
Yeah.
They also signed Quentin Jefferson, a defensive end, expected to sign with them here shortly on a 2-year deal. No details on the money involved. But oh, how the mighty have fallen. They have signed Josh Norman, former Panther, infamous Panther, Thieves Ave, goes to the Skins. He is now a Buffalo Bill, and he agreed to terms on a 1-year, $6 million deal with a maximum value of only $8 million.
Ouch.
Yes. But what they still need, they need more corners. They need a running back for the love of God, and they need offensive linemen. You're starting to see a theme here, offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. Something the NFL has not paid a lot of attention to in the last couple of years, if I'm being completely honest, for the teams in it. Now, moving on, the Carolina Panthers made a ton of moves. They still need corners, defensive line, and offensive line. Again, they're a thing. Panthers, for whatever reason, every year draft 75 running backs, no offensive line worth speaking of, and they can't figure out why God himself can't get a ball out of the pocket. But the big news is Kyle Allen. We talked about, I don't know if we talked about Kyle Allen already, but he has been picked up. I believe it was Kyle Allen, picked up by the Redskins. It says here he signed a one-year extension, but I know better because this must be some old information because I do believe he signed with the Redskins. One big name. Go ahead.
Pretty sure you're right.
Yeah. But it says here he signed a one-year extension, and maybe he signed that extension and they figured it out. But I don't have the details in front of me, so I don't want to lie to y'all. Trey Boston, safety, he re-signed with the Panthers, 3 years, $18 million with $9.5 guaranteed. Of course, the Teddy Bridgewater contract we already talked about, which was stupid. They signed Pharaoh Cooper, who's a wide receiver. He had 1 year with the Panthers. No details on the pay, probably not a whole lot. They signed Russell Okung.
That's big.
Left tackle. They tentatively agreed to acquire Okung from the Chargers in exchange for Trey Turner. So Trey Turner is apparently now a Los Angeles Charger. And, of course, Seth Roberts, wide receiver, signs the deal, terms not disclosed. P.J. Walker. And they also signed Tahir Whitehead, man, linebacker, $2.5 million deal, 1 year, $2.5 million deal with only 1.5 or thereabouts in the signing bonus. Panthers made a lot of big moves, man. They made a lot of big moves. The Chicago Bears made some big moves. Nick Foles, Jimmy Graham, Robert Quinn, Danny Trevathan. And they, of course, they still need offensive line, corners and stuff like that. The Bengals up in your neck of the woods, they placed a franchise tag on A.J. Green. Don't blame them there.
Not at all.
Trey Waynes. He agreed to a 3-year deal for $42 million corner. Big deal. Now, moving on to your team, the Cleveland Browns, some of the things, just a few high points, and these are high points, man. Of course, the Cleveland Browns, they still need some offensive line, safeties, and linebackers, but they signed Austin Hooper, tight end, to a 4-year, $42 million deal, 23 guaranteed in the first 2 years. So that's a pretty good contract for a tight end. They signed Kareem Hunt. Running back, and they placed a second-round tender on a restricted free agent. So he's, I don't know, man. I like Kareem Hunt. I do. I think he's got potential, but I don't want to sound negative here, man. But I haven't heard much out of Kareem Hunt to speak of in the last couple of years. So
he had that suspension going on last year where he missed half the season.
right.
Second half of the season, he really didn't do much because just lost his name. What an idiot. Kid from Georgia.
That happens from time to time.
Forgive me. I can't even think of the kid's name. He's running back from Georgia. He pretty much had established himself at that point. But I think this season you're going to see one hell of a two-headed monster between those two. And hopefully that opens up, us being able to get the ball to Odell a whole lot more than what we did last year. I think that's what really hurt was, relying on the run game entirely too much. And we weren't getting the ball to Odell at all.
Yeah, tell me about it. Panthers did the same thing. McCaffrey. I mean, that's great and all, but damn, got to balance it out a little bit. But they signed Case Keenum, quarterback, 3-year, $18 million deal, $10 million guaranteed. We'll see how that plays out. They also signed Andrew Sendejo, safety, 1 year, $2.25 million. So that's a big name, man. That's a pretty good damn safety lockdown right there, man. So we'll see how that plays out.
Move it all.
Say what?
I don't understand that Case Keenum move at all.
Yeah, I don't either. I think, the Band-Aid, maybe, or a good solid backup when they find what they're looking for. But moving on, Dallas Cowboys. Again, their main remaining needs, edge rusher, corners, and offensive line as well. They signed Clinton Dix to a 1-year, $4 million, 2.5 guaranteed. Amari Cooper, he has re-signed a $100 million deal, including $60 million, $40 million at signing, and another $20 million for injury that becomes fully guaranteed the 5th day of the 2022 league year. That is one hell of a contract for Amari Cooper.
Ridiculous contract.
And I'll be the first one to say I think he's worth every damn penny of it. I mean, I love watching him. I love watching him when he was with the Raiders, man. And I was excited for him when he got picked up by the Cowboys. I believe it was the Raiders. He played his ass off, and he's finally getting the notoriety, and it's in a system where he can really do his thing. If Dak can get the ball out, no doubt in my mind, Amari can catch it. Now, they also signed Hy Forbath, kicker. No terms there. Everything's kept tight-lipped on that. Sean Lee, linebacker. He re-signed the Cowboys, $4.5 million deal for 1 year, $2 million guaranteed. Gerald McCoy, there's a Panther. He was with the Panthers for about 10 seconds. But defensive tackle, they picked him up, agreed to terms, 3-year, $18 million deal. So, of course, we all know about Dak Prescott. They placed a franchise tag on Prescott, so we'll see how that plays out. But the Cowboys, they definitely made some moves, man. They made some moves. Now, we know that Witten's not there anymore, so we'll see how that tight end position plays out. But we know they've made moves and picked up some folks in that position as well. Denver Broncos, not a lot to speak of. Melvin Gordon, running back, they got a 2-year, $16 million deal with him. That's really the only news. They need wide receivers badly. And they also need offensive line and defensive line. In my personal opinion, they definitely need a good quarterback. I'm not saying what they have now fits, but it's damn close to it.
Yeah.
The Detroit Lions, another team up in your neck of the woods. Of course, they still need corners. Again, defensive line, offensive line. But they signed Jamie Collins, linebacker, and agreed to terms with the Lions, 3-year, $30 million deal, including $18 million, fully guaranteed. They signed Chase Daniel at QB. He agreed to a deal with them. There's no details. I don't have any details on his contract, but I'm imagining it's not a whole hell of a lot. It's Chase Daniel, for the love of God. And then, of course, we got Desmond Trufant. They signed the corner. They agreed to terms, 2-year, $21 million. And then moving on to another team in your neck of the woods, the Green Bay Packers. They're really the only needs they have right now, and they're big needs, yes, offensive line, wide receiver, tight end. But they signed Kirksey, a linebacker, signed a 2-year, $16 million. Mercedes Lewis, they signed him on a 1-year deal at tight end. Rick Wagner, offensive tackle. And that's really it. Green Bay didn't make a whole hell of a lot of moves. I know there was a big name. Been a while, Clay Matthews, of course. One of his big wide receivers, one of his big targets. I know just left not too long ago as well. So I don't know what's going on with Green Bay. I know they've fallen from grace, and I know Aaron Rodgers can't do it all, man. So if any team can be okay with minimal shit, it's Green Bay. But this year's going to be tricky for them, I do believe.
Yeah.
Houston Texans. I'm going to try to skim over as much of this as possible. Houston Texans, other than Randall Cobb, David Johnson, A.J. McCarron, Bradley Roby, Jalen Watkins, they all signed deals. Colts, really not a lot to talk about other than offensive tackle. Anthony Costanzo, he agreed to 2-year, $33 million. And of course, Phillip Rivers is now gone. We all know that situation. We'll see how that plays out. Jacksonville, really not a lot to talk about with them at all. I mean, at all. They signed a linebacker, 5-year deal, Joe Schobert, a $53.75 million contract. So I don't know what's going on with Jacksonville if they just don't have a lot of big names to spend money on and they're just throwing money out there so they can keep up with the Joneses or what the hell. they got a lot of needs still left on the board, and they got to get to it. The Chiefs, again, really not a lot to talk about. They signed Chad Henne, the 2-year, $2 million guarantee, 3.25 at QB. That's really the only name to talk about. Now, I want to talk about and stop and spend a few minutes on these guys. The Las Vegas Raiders. Now, they've made quite a few moves, quite a few. Every one of these names I'm going to say you've heard, and for a damn good reason. If they still need wide receiver, corners, and of course, like the rest of them, offensive line, defensive line. But Nelson Aguilar, wide receiver, they signed 1-year veteran salary benefit deal that is worth just over $1 million. I don't understand that. Bare minimum, with only $888,000 guaranteed. So I'm not sure what the hell that's about. But they signed Malik Collins at defensive tackle, 1-year, $6 million deal. Corey Littleton, linebacker, 3-year deal worth up to $36 million. But here's the two big names: Marcus Mariota, quarterback, 2-year, $17.6 million. That includes fully guaranteed 1-year base salary of $7.5 million, and of course the max deal $37.5 million with incentives. Now, Jason Witten came over from the Cowboys. We talked about this on the last episode, man. 1-year, $4 million deal, 3.5 fully guaranteed, and of course max value of $4.75 million with incentives. The Raiders are coming up. They're looking to make moves, and I don't know that the Jason Witten 1-year deal thing is worth it, because it's going to take longer than that to get this team to gel together. Maybe they're just testing the waters with him, but Jason Witten doesn't need to be tested, okay? The man's been doing this shit long enough, and he's been well proven within a certain system, though.
Right.
So
I think right now with the Raiders, they're trying to get names in there to fill seats so that they don't look like Las Vegas is a failure city for a football team.
Right. Really not a whole lot of big news in any other team that I'm seeing other than New Orleans Saints. Breeze re-signed. They signed Malcolm Jenkins. Onyemata re-signed. They got Emmanuel Sanders, a 2-year, $16 million deal. That's huge at wide receiver. They also got DJ Swearinger agreed to 1-year, $1.1 million contract at safety. So the Giants have signed a bunch of pieces and parts, Band-Aids. The Jets, basically the same. The Eagles, Jalen Mills, Darius Slay. The Steelers, they signed Eric Ebron. That was about the biggest news I've heard out of them. And Derek Watt. That's really it on that side of things. Seattle, there's nothing to talk about with the Niners. In Seattle, they picked up Greg Olsen, of course. That was a big one. And Bruce Irvin, he's expected to sign with them. And probably has at this point. Tampa Bay, no need to get into that. Brady signed with them. Jason Pierre-Paul re-signed with them. That's a big one. And as far as the Titans go, they placed a franchise tag on Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill agreed to 4-year, $118 million contract.
Yeah.
Am I reading that right? Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, you are reading that 100% correct.
With $62 million fully guaranteed. 4 years. Is Ryan Tannehill worth $62 million?
That is a big negative, Ghost Rider. Not considering that they just had Marcus Mariota.
Yeah. All right, so wrapping this thing up with Washington Redskins, I do have it right here. Kyle Allen did it. He was acquired in a trade with the Panthers in exchange for a 5th-round pick, the 148th pick, to be exact. Thomas Davis has agreed to a 1-year, $3.5 million contract, $1.75 million signing bonus, and max value of $3.75. Thomas Davis, of course, a former Panther. He is now a Redskin. Kendall Fuller at QB And Brandon Scherf at outside guard, man. They placed franchise tag on him, deal worth $13.5 million. That's really all the rapid fire. That's about as fast as I could possibly spit it out.
The big news on that is, I believe, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I believe that there were 9 teams that signed 13 XFL players. That's good news for the XFL. That means that the NFL is definitely watching their product. As long as they can keep funneling in talent, they can continue doing well. That's very good news for them, especially with the option that they have with guys being able to come out of high school and all that to go and play there.
Yeah, I agree. I think the XFL being a junior NFL is not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing at all, because the NFL is wildly successful, obviously. And anytime you can get the eyeballs of an organization like that, it's kind of kin to an indie wrestling organization being talked about by WWE on national television. I mean, it's a big deal, man. PJ Walker, Tamu, and numerous other players have been picked up and signed. And I think it's huge. I think it's huge.
Yeah, the one thing that I wasn't a huge fan of, guys like Walker, I would have liked to seen them give it one more year in the XFL and say, hey, we didn't get to finish full season. We want to be a champion here before we go to that next level. But at the same time, I mean, money talks. I can understand where they're coming from, but, I'm a loyalist. That's just how I am. If it was me, I would have gave it another year, went in there and tried to win a championship in the XFL and possibly boosted my stock up.
Yeah, I understand that. Because I'm a loyalist too. Always have been, and a realist at the same time. I look at it from the standpoint of I'd love to see them hang out and be around longer, and they'll have those guys that when it's all said and done, 3, 4, 5 years from now, you'll have those Greg Olsons and those Tom Brady's and Drew Breeses of the world. But I also look at it, compared to what they're making. You talk about taxes and travel and everything else, and a max, contract of $55,000. It sounds like a lot of money, but it's not. At the end of the day, for the abuse they're taking, and what happens if they, have a career-ending injury?
Right.
And you think of how much money these guys get just from signing the NFL contract. That literally, the minute they sign, the signing bonus is given to them. They can change the lives of their mothers, their fathers, their brothers, their sisters, themselves. And if something happens after that point, hey, it's like,
right.
Yeah. So it's a double-edged sword, man. I can definitely understand both sides of it. So, what's going to happen with the sports world, Haystacks?
Man, it's not looking good. I've seen that Kirk Herbstreit is quoted as, "Don't be surprised if we don't have a college football season this year."
Already struggling, by the way.
Which, already that goes into the NFL also. If we don't have college football, then odds are we're not going to have pro football, which means odds are we're not going to have XFL. So it's going to be rough because, the XFL season was supposed to kick off, it's supposed to kick off in February and in, what was it, April? May?
Somewhere around there. You had a 10-week season, then you had the playoffs, which was 4 teams.
So we should be right about the end of the XFL season.
Hopefully by the time we get to that point, everything will be better,
Yeah, because, we're looking, I want to say it's September we start with preseason football. And that's when we started NCAA. So it's going to be close. if everybody's correct in the peak of this thing where they're talking May to mid-May, that gives you June, July, August, September. That gives you about 3.5 months to get this thing contained, under control, to be able to get back to normal reality. It's going to be tight.
Yeah, no doubt it's going to be real tight. But you know what? No matter what's going on, no matter how many sports are being played or not played, one fact keeps coming to the surface, and that is the point ain't going nowhere. So whether you love us, whether you hate us, whether we talk too much, whether we don't talk enough, whether we don't talk about the shit that you want to talk about, until you grow some cojones and let us know what you want us to talk about, we're going to talk about what we want to talk about. But one thing's for sure, the point ain't going no damn where. Nobody else in the world's got you back. These two gentlemen right here do. So we're keeping sports alive, at least on our end. We can only hold up so much.
Absolutely. If we get down to just talking about WWE, AEW, and the promo world, by God, that's what we're going to do.
If we got to talk about poker and beer pong and tiddlywinks and pickle bottle, whatever we got to talk about, damn it, we're going to talk about it. So I do believe it. I do believe Haystacks is dropping the point on you this week, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to go ahead and cut this song bit short, let Haystacks drop that knowledge on you. So, Haystacks, what you got left before we leave?
Everybody just remember, hit that like, subscribe, share. Head on over to Combat Universal Promos over there on YouTube and Facebook. Give those guys some love. Tune in.
Yep.
Things will start getting real crazy real soon.
Yes, they are. But yeah, stay tuned, and we appreciate the support, appreciate the love. Share, like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And coming up here in the next couple of seconds, Haystacks going to drop the point on you. Don't forget, next Tuesday, come hell or high water, the point will be back on your screen right here, live and in color. Until then, we love you. As I like to say, we got to go.
See ya. Ladies and gentlemen, as you've seen, no matter what, the point's going to be here. Which brings us again to what is the point of this show. The point is, whether we have to sit here and talk about free agency, the promo world, whatever, we're going to do our best every week to come on here and give you guys a great show. Remember, like, subscribe, share, send your questions, your comments, concerns right here. And as always, especially through these times, take care of yourselves, take care of one another, make sure that you're going out. Thank your police, thank your EMS, thank your nurses, your doctors, and also, for the love of God, make sure that you're thanking your retail workers that are in here on the front lines, making sure everybody has something to eat and have your day-to-day supplies that everybody's going crazy over. See y'all next week.